Today, the content is going to be around loneliness. And all of us know that, and we've all been in that place. I know for me, for many years, I didn't mind being alone because I enjoyed it. It was my time to decompress. I was so hypersensitive that I enjoyed my time away from people. And so from that, we conclude that loneliness is not about the absence of people. It's actually about the absence of being known. And this is what I experienced over many decades of pretending and over filtering my words, suppressing my emotions, and minimizing my needs, thinking they weren't as important as anybody else's. And after all that time, of so many decades of doing that, of having those people pleasing patterns, I found myself so lonely because I didn't even know myself anymore. I had completely lost myself in everyone else. Everyone else, I allowed it, was leading my life. Their needs were leading my life. Their wants and desires were what determined my behaviors, my responses, my actions. So I ended up in that deep, dark place. It led to my emotional collapse. And that is when, about 10 years ago, that I began this journey into and getting closer to an emotional flatline. I had nothing left. I didn't know anymore what to try to connect with people. And I knew that I had completely lost myself. I didn't know who I was. And that is the big part, the deepest part of loneliness is not being known by yourself. And that's where I was. So people pleasing is undeniably what will cause us to find ourselves pretending. And all these people pleasing patterns create the inner struggles of our emotional isolation, the invisibility that we often feel, the grief of all the things that we've missed out on, and feeling like we don't belong. That's all encapsulated within that loneliness. And ironically, our behaviors, those behaviors are due to a fear of losing connection. We do all those things, filtering, suppressing, minimizing our needs, so that we can maintain a physical connection and avoid rejection. But the sacrifice is your genuine self-expression for that superficial connection when you're playing it safe. We've sacrificed that close relationship to ourselves. And another layer of the loneliness is a result of not speaking our truth. And in this process of not speaking our truth, we become disconnected from ourselves. And that's the deepest layer. It very much feels lonely and even confusing, hopeless, and it leads to depression and this overall melancholy. And I found myself 10 years ago where now I see the signs of moving toward that emotional flatline. Because 10 years ago, for example, I remember clearly one day coming home from work and I knew that I was depressed. I had been for a while in my situation. I knew the marriage was falling apart and that I needed to be out of it so that I could begin to heal. That was my situation. I couldn't see the places I needed to heal because I was so codependent. I was so stuck in those people pleasing patterns. And anyway, I came home from work that day and I remember sitting at the dinner table completely numb. It's like I couldn't speak, I couldn't interact. I was sitting at the dinner table with my family. They were eating and I was barely eating. And I noticed in that moment, I can read energy. I noticed, as a lot of us can here because we're empaths, but I noticed that my husband at that time noticed my energy, noticed that I was numbed out and I just couldn't interact. He noticed that, I don't know if in his mind he said, well, she's depressed, but he noticed something. And that was probably what was needed because I was so stuck in my people pleasing patterns, my codependency, that I couldn't. And part of all of that is the characteristic of being loyal. I was so loyal to the family that I would choose them. I would choose us together rather than choose myself. Even though I knew that I needed to do something to break away, to be able to heal, I couldn't do it because I was so loyal to holding the family together. But when he noticed it that day at the dinner table, it was scary. I didn't say anything and he didn't say anything, but I knew. And I believe that's when the separation built, and we ended up, I would think maybe a couple months later is when we separated from the marriage. And that was an important day. It was bittersweet, very bittersweet, because, we had been married at that point 25 years, and we had our young daughter, and she was 13 at the time. It was bittersweet, but it was what was necessary for me to begin to heal in these next stages, these next phases of my healing process. I had to learn how to be authentic. I had been a pretender. I had been fake. I had worn a facade my whole life, trying to make connections with people. And by making them comfortable and happy, that I didn't know how to be authentic. And it's not, authenticity isn't just about saying your opinions, it's letting your inner experience shine. So, what I had to do, and what it would be a good idea for you to do if you find yourself a people pleaser, is teaching yourself by practicing it, getting brave. And you're already brave, but be brave in this way, to choose a new way out of your people pleasing patterns. And here's a few ways that you can do that. Being okay in disagreement. It's okay for the other person to disagree, and it's okay for the other person to see that you disagree. Express your preferences. Start small. Do it with somebody you feel a little bit safer around. Share what hurts. And this is really hard. I'm not making light of any of it. It is. It's going to be incredibly hard, especially if you're taking those first steps to do it all for the first time. But it does strengthen that muscle. Saying what matters to you, trying to be authentic and speak your truth. If someone says, I don't agree with what such and such was talking about, it's okay to say, well, I thought this part of it was okay. That part of it resonated with me. And then letting yourself be seen. Choose the new ways of doing things. And it's going to change everything. It's going to change your life for the better. Denying that connection with yourself is where the deepest loneliness comes from. And in your external environment is where everything is mirrored back to you. All the times that you have denied yourself, denied that connection with your true self, it is mirrored back to you, and you can see the results of it as a lack of emotional resonance with other people. Other people can't resonate with you on an emotional level if you never express your true emotions. There is a lack of intimacy in that friendship, in that work relationship. So I invite you to start showing up more for yourself. The next time you feel yourself needing to pretend to keep the harmony, I want you to think about this concept. Remind yourself. Jesus said, there's a wrong mind and there's a right mind. Your wrong mind is the ego activity. Your wrong mind is what's going to tell you to be scared, to be on alert, to pretend you don't have needs, to pretend to agree. The wrong mind wants you to do those things so that you feel safe. The ego is there to keep you safe, but you don't need that anymore. You need to turn to your right mind, which is your God self, your true self. It is spirit. And spirit, your higher self, the Holy Spirit, which is inside of you, and your entire spirit team. That is what cares about keeping you healthy and liberated and free to be yourself. So remind yourself. Choose the right mind over the wrong mind. The whole time we have lived in this people-pleasing pattern that we had to develop as a survival strategy, we have been living from the wrong mind. It believes in the survival of the fittest. So I came up with an acronym for REMIND, and it goes like this. Remember, every mirror invites new direction. So our external environment is forever mirroring our internal environment, what we think about ourselves, how we respond to people, how we follow the people-pleasing patterns is being mirrored outside of us. And every mirror invites a new direction for you to choose again. Choose a new way. Every trigger is an invitation to respond a new way. So I wish you so much love and so much freedom and even excitement as you explore the journey of no longer being a people pleaser. And from me, my higher self, and my spirit guides, we see you, we love you, we trust you, and we honor you, our heart-centered friend. Blessed be. Talk to you tomorrow.